Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk TEFL podcast. So I'm Jackie, and joining me is Jen. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jackie.
Let's talk about the important stuff here and
Yeah.
spelling. A spelling for ESL or EFL students, does it matter? Should we actually teach it? And then if you decide it is important and it does matter, we have some activity suggestions. So spelling, Jen, does it matter in the age of, spell check, computers, ChatGPT, etc.?
Yes. I'm going to just boldly put out not even an equivocation. Spelling helps develop both reading and writing skills. So even if your students can use spell check or autocorrect, first of all, the writing has to be close enough to the correct word that they can get at least some options to choose between. But also, that won't help them read. And granted, in the near future, they may be able to get everything read to them. You can already get PDFs read to you and Word documents read to you. You can have your Kindle read out loud to you, whatever. But sometimes you just have to actually read the words with your eyes. If you don't know the spelling rules of English, or if you haven't learned sight words, that will slow you down so much when you're reading that it's hard to remember the beginning of the sentence by the time you get to the end of the sentence. So since reading is an important source of input especially for EFL learners, where they are not getting the input in their day-to-day life, they're just getting it from English class. Reading is really important, and learning spelling will help them become fluent faster.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is one good point for sure. It does definitely help with reading. And I would say that it helps with writing too. If you can just, you don't have to memorize how to spell these crazy 12-letter words or whatever. Like even I don't know how to spell those giant long words anymore. I probably used to at one point in time. But however, just, for the basics, simple words or even just the medium kind of difficulty words, I think knowing how to spell those inside and out is going to help students just write far more fluently than if they're struggling, with the easy words. Oh, how do I spell that again? And having to like spell check every single word is such a hassle. And it's also very difficult to learn vocabulary if you never actually learn the spelling. I mean, it's difficult for me to really even envision being proficient in, have a wide range of vocabulary without knowing spelling of the words. I find that difficult to
Yeah.
imagine,
I
really.
think especially a language like English, where there's so many like Greek and Latin roots that can really unlock a lot of vocabulary if you know that they exist and how they relate to the words.
So
But
just one kind of word of argument against it, I guess, is that for beginners, certainly, I would focus on spelling and spelling tests and like vocabulary tests and that kind of stuff. It forces students to actually just learn those words. And I think spelling, if you know the spelling of it and have to do a test about it, it kind of can hopefully like lock it more into your long-term memory by focusing on it a little bit more deeply. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on spelling for higher level students. I think there's other things that are probably far more important. And higher level students, anyway, they'll be able to kind of spell the gist of it. And then at that point, spell check can take over and they'll be generally high enough level to kind of recognize, oh, that's what I want. That's the word I want. Where beginners might not necessarily
yeah.
even know if there's four options. They'll be like, oh God, what are all these options? So higher level, I wouldn't focus on it, but lower level, most certainly.
Yeah, exactly. I think with higher level students, as long as their like receptive skills are there, if they can recognize the words when they're reading and they can recognize the word from autocorrect, whatever, then unless they are specifically coming to you for lessons because they are working like in an English speaking office or something where it would be quite important for them to have really on point spelling, then I would say focus on the bigger items that are more important to their actual language learning goals or needs. I just want to point out that there are plenty of free resources online, and they can help your student or they can help you with your planning for developing basic spelling skills. And that includes things like high frequency sight words, which if you're not teaching young learners, you may not have sight words as like part of the textbook or like the learning plan, but English has a lot of really basic, extremely common words that they just need to learn to recognize when they see them. And you can easily find lists of the top 100 and top 200, which accounts for some crazy proportion of actual word usage in English. And if you can just get them to work on those, that will get them pretty far. And also, obviously, like phonics, sounds, and spelling patterns. And also, you can find lots of strategies to help students improve their spelling. If you have not taught spelling before, do just like look on Pinterest, look on Busy Teacher, look on Jackie's many resources, and you can find so many things to help with spelling.
Yes, exactly. Those are some good tips.
We have some specific activities to help your students with their spelling. And my first one is word family practice. So this is going along with the phonics, sound, and spelling patterns. Word families are like pig, big, dig, for example. They all end with IG. So this does require some prep. You either need to prep some worksheets or a PowerPoint, or just write the word families on the whiteboard, and then have the students create a list of all the words from A to Z with that word family. So you could have them just write all of the combinations they can make from A to Z. I think it's more useful for English class rather than just a young learner class to have them write just the words that are actual words and not nonsense words. So like, for example, if you're teaching, kindergarten or first grade in the US, you might have them also learn the nonsense words, just because they would get the input around them about what are real words and what are not real words. But in the ESL and EFL classrooms, I think it's a lot better just to have them work on the real words. So you could even do this if you wanted to do like more of a game. Rather than having the students work alone, you could have them do a think, pair, share, or you could have them work in groups, trying to create the most real words and the fewest nonsense words. So there's two ways they could get plus points or minus points for a game. Or you could do as a whiteboard relay, where you just had two teams and you wrote just one word family on the board, and each student races up to write one real word. And what you can do then is the next person to come up can either erase the word before that they think is a nonsense word, and that's their turn, or they can add a new word. And then obviously the team that has the most actual words and the fewest nonsense words would win the game.
Okay, I like that. All right, so my activity, my first one, is the whiteboard race. So this is better for smaller classes, or you could use it for bigger classes if you have, like, say, a double whiteboard. Anyway, so divide students into teams. Generally, I like to have, like, about 3 to 5 people per team. And then the first person on each team takes a whiteboard marker and has a section of the whiteboard. So for absolute beginners, maybe if you're doing like numbers or colors or something, you could say 2, and then students race to be the first person to spell 2, TWO. Whoever is the first person, they get 1 point for their team. And then they go to the back of the line. For a slightly higher level, you could do something like, what is 3 plus 2? And then the first team to write 5, F-I-V-E, with the spelling gets the point. And you can do that with colors, with animals, you can give some hints, etc. So yeah, this is a nice way to focus on spelling, and you can also focus on meaning as well of the vocabulary word for slightly higher level learners. What is your next one, Jen?
My next one is a spelling board game. So this one has both prep and materials required. So like, yuck, but
could be worth it if you use it more than once, especially.
Exactly. You can find blank board game templates, or you can just make a very simple one just using shapes in PowerPoint or Word if you must, but PowerPoint makes it a lot easier. So this would obviously be a review activity for either a spelling or a vocabulary list that the students have already been studying. So you prepare the game board in advance, obviously, but if you laminate them, as I always say, you can reuse them any number of times. You would just use like cards that they would have to draw from, or you can just have a list if you want to have like a team secretary who is the keeper of the list, but then that would have a student who is not playing. So that's not ideal. Generally speaking, it doesn't take too long to create some word cards, and a way that you can get the students to do the work is to have each student write down all of the words in a way like just on a piece of notebook paper, but then cut them out into cards, and then all of the team cards can be put together so that they can practice each of the word multiple times as they go through the deck. But the important part for this game is, what do you do with the game board? What is actually on the game board? Well, each space that they can land on, obviously you can put a handful of, go back 2 spaces or lose a turn, whatever, but most of them should be activities that involve spelling the words. So you could put, for example, whisper the spelling, and, spell this word while pretending to hula hoop, or spell the word while doing jumping jacks, or standing on one foot, whatever. You can think of however many different activities they could do while they're spelling a word, and have a different space for those. And if you have fewer activities, you can recycle them. So they might have 5 times on the board where they have to stand on one foot while they're spelling a word, for example. So you will need dice, 1 for each team, or spinners, 1 for each team. And if you want to have a secretary, again, I don't think that's ideal because then there's a student who's not playing, but a way that you can kind of justify it, I guess, is to have the winner of each round be the secretary for the next one, or the student who got, the highest score on the team on the last spelling test can be the secretary if you're just going to do like 1 round on the board. But generally speaking, if students have to police each other and the result of an incorrect spelling is that they have to go back to their previous space on the board, then the students will police each other pretty well without a secretary.
Oh, I always just tell the students, just like, don't fight, just put up your hand, and I'll come be the judge, the final judge on correct or incorrect. So so I play board games in my classes a lot, and I never used a secretary. But maybe because I teach adults, it's maybe a little bit easier to do it. But I just always say, put up your hand, don't fight.
Oh,
I'll be the judge or the referee.
I'm sorry, I left out one important part of that is that the students don't draw the card and then spell the word. Like the student who is to their left or to their right, however you want to set it up, that person draws the card and tells the student the word they need to spell. Like they're not just reading the spelling. Sorry, I should have said that more clearly.
Yes, that is key. But yes, that makes sense. Yeah. So you would just hear the word and then have to spell it.
Yes. Okay. And you have a spelling chain game. How does that
go? Spelling chain game is quite a simple game, not for huge classes. It's not really student-centered enough if you have, say, like more than 10 students. But if you have fewer than that and you're kind of focusing on like some basic words, like how to spell them, like animals or colors or numbers or whatever. Anyway, so all the students in the class would stand up, and then I would say a word, and then we're doing animals, and I say cat. So the first student says the first letter C, the next student says A, the next one T, and then I would say a new animal, dog, D, the next student O, G, etc. But if a student misses a letter, they have to sit down and they're out of the round. And just as a way to kind of keep it moving along quickly, I'll give students like probably 5 seconds, but I don't actually say it out loud. I just count down 5 seconds with my fingers. And if they don't say the letter before then, they are also out of the round. So this is quite a fun, simple game, but you really have to keep it moving along, or it can kind of get boring.
Yeah. And I like that the students have to pay attention to what the other students are doing. They're not just silently waiting for their turn with their minds a million miles away. I I would say that even 5 seconds is pretty long.
I would often do 3. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
would do like a very quick 5, like
Yeah.
faster than 5 seconds, or 3 actual seconds generally. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, next.
Yes, exactly. All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Um,
Yeah, and I like it because if someone makes a mistake, then the next student just has to jump in. So they really do have to pay like very close attention in this
Yes.
game.
Yeah, they can't just hear the word and count how many students they are away from the first person. They
Mhm.
actually have to listen in case it gets off track with a wrong letter here or there. Yeah.
Exactly. And I like because students are standing up. So it kind of creates, a bit of energy and a bit of like just something else going on besides like sitting in your desk endlessly doing spelling, which can be a little bit boring. So this is kind of, yeah, just to create a bit of excitement
Yeah.
around it. All right, Jen. So your next one is the right, wrong word sort. What is that one
Yes.
all about?
Okay. So this can have prep, but also it can have a no prep option, similar to the card decks from that last activity. So this is similar to the memory game, where you match two cards, because they need each word to be twice, but in this game, one of the words is misspelled. So the prep option, you would make all of the words on one card, or one card for each word correctly spelled, and one card for each word slightly incorrectly spelled. Especially, this is a good way to practice things that are common mistakes that the students make, and just to get them used to at least recognizing what is the correct spelling. And so the students can play it like memory, and they have to sort the words once they have a pair, sort them into a correct pile and an incorrect pile. So at the end of the game, they don't just count who has like the most cards, them versus their partner, but have they correctly sorted their pairs? So have they put all of the correctly spelled words into the correct pile, and have they put all of their incorrectly spelled words into the incorrect pile? If you want to do this as a no prep or less prep for you option, write the words on the board, but don't differentiate between the correct and the incorrect spelling. Just put them all randomly on the board or alphabetically, whatever, so the students can't look and tell from how you've written them on the board which is correct and which is incorrect, and have the students create their own decks using notebook paper that they then cut into squares, and they can play with their partners, or you can have them play on their own where they're just sorting the words into correct and incorrect. They don't even have to play memory, or if you want to stretch it out a bit more, they can play memory by themselves. But I think doing it as a pair activity is more fun, because it has like the trying to get more cards than your opponent part, as well as trying to beat yourself by having the most correct words sorted.
I like that activity. I've never done that, but I could see that potentially being like quite challenging if you do like some of the rules like the I before E except after C and like that kind of stuff, and you kind of have some tricky words in there. So yeah, I do like it, although it is a bit of prep as you mentioned for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's less prep if you have like a guillotine, but yeah, this is like a one and done kind of activity,
Mhm.
unless you have the same spelling with multiple classes, or you use the same stuff semester after semester. But especially if you're really tailoring it to a specific set of students' spelling challenges, it is kind of a one and done. And I am always a fan of getting the students to do the work for me. So if they can
I know you're
write the
quite good at
words.
that. It's your specialty, I think, actually. Yeah, if you're a busy teacher and are teaching like 30 hours a week or something, then yeah, you don't have a ton of time to do prep. So yeah, Jen's tips are perfect for you in these situations.
I will say, I never shied away from doing lots of stuff outside of class, like
Mhm.
prep work, if it was stuff that I could reuse again and again and again. I wasn't a big fan of the stuff like this, like creating something that would literally just be used one time that might take hours and hours to make, which I felt like Korean co-teachers really would just suck it up and they would do it. Like they would make really elaborate and like colored, stuff. And I don't mean like colored on a computer. I mean like actually hand drawn stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not laminated. Just use it one time. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
I'm not interested in that. Yeah, I think I would put a lot of prep work into doing something that I would use multiple times. It was quite easy teaching in universities. You generally teach the same class a few times each week. So I was just like, oh, this is going to take me 2 hours to make this elaborate game or whatever. But I was like, that's okay. Like I'm going to use it 6 times. So I wasn't that worried about it. Yeah, so use your best judgment, especially
Yes.
if you can only use it once. Think about prep time and how much you actually want to put into it. Okay, so the last activity that I have is a spelling bee. So kind of the old school spelling bee. I'm sure you've seen it on TV, the spelling bee national championships, etc. If you don't really know how a spelling bee works, just kind of like do a quick Google search or like YouTube, look online. And I've done this with my students a few times. And so I kind of tell them in advance, study chapter, if I've done in class chapter 1 through 5, I would just say, okay, we're going to do a spelling bee next class, chapters 1 through 5. All the vocabulary words are potentially in the spelling bee. So study and whatever. Then I always have little prizes and that kind of thing. So it's kind of fun for like just a little party. I don't know if spelling is like a party class, but a spelling bee is quite fun. And if there's prizes, it kind of creates some excitement and just kind of a little bit of a break from the usual thing in class.
Yes. Sorry, it just triggered a memory of a school that I worked for that rented an event space at COEX, which is a really big shopping mall in Seoul. And we had a spelling bee for all of the students there. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, the admin thought it would be a great little fun activity, which to me says like none of them had ever met a Korean parent in their life. Like there is nothing where there is number one at stake that would be like a low-key fun activity. All of the kids turned up with their parents. Some of them had all their siblings there to watch. Like it was a whole thing. And the parents were insane. Like think of, like kind of stereotypical American, like little league,
Yeah.
parents that are,
Yeah.
screaming at the ref. It
Oh,
was
God.
just very slightly lower key than that. it was a little bit scarring.
Oh, well, I do it just kind of informally. I don't invite parents or anything. So I try to keep it like kind of chill in my
Oh, that would
class,
be
but
great
I
in
can see that being
university, though.
intense.
Sending out invitations to the university student parents. Come to the
Yeah.
spelling bee.
Welcome to my fun little spelling bee. No. And by prize, I mean I would bring like a chocolate bar or
Yeah,
something. So like pretty chill or a $5 Starbucks gift card or something like that.
yeah.
So
Oh, that would have gone over really well, I'm sure.
yeah, students really liked it actually. Okay, so I think that is it for spelling. I have a YouTube video, top 5 spelling games for English class, that have a few other kind of different ones that I've included in there. So I'll put the link in the notes. And then also be sure to check out a book of mine, 49 ESL writing activities and games. So spelling is technically a writing activity or part of writing. And you can find the podcast information at eslactivity.org/podcast. And yeah, please leave us a review and a few stars wherever you listen to this podcast. Catch you next time, everybody.
All right. See you next time. Bye.